For this particular part, I would like to talk about more or less the day-to-day, what it was like to live on that hill. You survivalist, you think you know what it means to survive? You don't. You don't unless you know what it's like to survive without electricity, without running water, without heat. That was true survival. That was real survival. From the very first day I was there, the very first day, the food I was eating, looking back, I am going to conservatively say that 70% of the food that I ate in the entire time that I was in Kentucky was drawn out of a dumpster. We're looking at times, folks, when there won't even be food in the dumpsters anymore. You think you know what it means to survive. If you haven't eaten out of a dumpster, you have no idea. We had no electricity. What little we had was supplied by a generator at night. When the sun went down, the generator went up for a few hours every night. So in the summer, we'd get less electric light than in, say, the winter. It was brought to us by a string of electric cords, cables that ran all through our little community. As far as basic things like washing, you washed out of a bucket when you did wash at all. No toilet. Your bathroom was a bucket. Folks, I know what survival is. I know. I know how to survive. It's all about what you got right here. It's not about how much silver you own. It's not about how many bullets you have. It's about what you got right here. In the winter time, in my little trailer, I moved to a trailer that was about 10 by 8, which was a step up from where I was after a couple months. In that trailer, in the winter time, now, Kentucky gets very cold. It's not Minnesota, but it gets very cold. And when you have virtually no heat, and when you're in a trailer that has holes in it like Swiss cheese, you get cold. My trailer was so cold in the wintertime that my clothes would freeze to the floor. The clothes I left on the floor would freeze to the floor. I would wake up in the morning under 8 blankets, seeing my breath like I was smoking a cigarette. This is survival, folks. This is what I know. an aside, just for those of you who call yourself preppers. You don't go to your neighbors and tell them what you got. I mean, for crying out loud, is that not common sense? You don't go to your neighbors and say, hey, I got all this food. What do you got? Nothing? Oh, okay. I mean, crying out loud, folks. Once it happens, who do you think they're going to go to? How many of you have ever pointed a gun at someone else? How many of you have had a gun pointed at you? How many? Let me give you a piece of advice. If you point a gun at somebody, you better be ready to fire it. Don't use it to scare them. You point a gun at somebody, you better be intended to kill them. Boggles my mind, it really does, that you people, so many of you people actually think that you know what you're talking about. You don't. Our washing machine, when Laura, the Queen, determined that we could use it, was an old washing machine that ran on gas power. It had a belt that turned the agitator when we could use it. Daily life there was a struggle, and it will be. Now then, a normal day for me. I was the teacher, so I had a boy who was 12, I think, 11 or 12, and a girl who was 7 when I first came up there. She couldn't read. I taught her how to read. I would get them up early in the morning I would start school about 8 o'clock, so I'd wake them up around 7:30. Now, the woman in charge, Laura, was supposed to have someone up to make us breakfast, which almost never happened. So guess who made them breakfast? Me. Every morning. Oatmeal. I like oatmeal. I'm not complaining. Oatmeal. Every morning. Oatmeal and a can of fruit. Every morning. This was my day. I would have them in school with breaks till about 2 o'clock. I taught those kids. If it wasn't for me, those kids would know crap. They didn't care. No one else on that hill did, but me, about being educated, so to speak. Then there were the days that I worked, especially in the summertime, especially when I got into better shape. You go out in the tobacco patch, somebody else's, and you would cut the tobacco. The tobacco stands at about 7 feet tall. That's average. Usually it's actually bigger. It used to be. High as an elephant's eye, they used to say. You cut the tobacco and then you stake it, which means you take it and you put it through a metal spherical tool that sits on the top of a wooden pole, stake. You take the tobacco and you put it on top of it. You cut it. Cuts into the stalk and puts it on the stick. Then, after you're done with that, you haul it. You put it on a wagon, and then the wagon takes it in to a barn that can have tiers that are 40 feet high. And people stand up in the tiers with their legs all the way. Tiers are as far away as you can imagine. And you grab, I was always on the wagon, you grab the tobacco and you hand it up. You hand it up. These things weighed every bit 40 pounds or more. Every single one. And in the wintertime, you go back and you pull off the tobacco after it's cured, after it's dried, and you bale it so that the people can sell it as tobacco. This was my life for almost 4 years. I know hard work. I know hard work. I'm not afraid of hard work. Unfortunately, I can't find work anymore. I'll never be a teacher again, thanks to my ex-wife and my mother. My substitute license has expired, and I cannot renew it because there's no point. No one wants to hire someone who's been committed, thanks to my ex-wife and my mother. Daily life there was, for me, usually, we didn't work that hard, honestly. I did have regular jobs. I worked in a lumber mill. That was hard work for a while. All the money went to the family, which meant it went to Richard and Laura to spend as they pleased. I tell you, there is a comeuppance coming for these people who have wronged me and wronged many people before me. Daily life there, daily life was a grind.